So when we just did that basic tab adjustment, when we just worked on that, we sort of went through and made a few adjustments. We made it a little bit darker, but sometimes that's not enough. And so what we just did in that basic tab is we worked globally. And that's when we're going through and we're adjusting the exposure and the contrast on everything here and here. Maybe we sort of bring the saturation up. I want you to also notice that when I use the shadows, do you see that highlight up here in the shadows? And I can go ahead and I can make some subtle adjustments. But I think there's some things that I need to sort of do locally in this image. I think that down here might be a little too bright in this area. I also feel like I want to crop this a little bit. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go up to this crop tool up here. And the crop tool can be a little tricky at first. What I like to do is I like to lock down this aspect ratio so that no matter how I move the crop tool, it's going to stay at the exact same proportion. Now that might not work for you. You might want to end up unlocking that and sort of doing some sort of bizarre panoramic. Again, I'm not sure what you're gonna do. And I can always hit reset if I don't like what's happening. So I'm just gonna go ahead and hit reset and that will take me back out. So I'm gonna just crop this down and I'm gonna just bring this down just a little bit. And what I'm also gonna do is, do you guys see as I go to the corners or I go to this tab here, I get this little arrow. And this will allow me to drag up and down. So I'm taking my mouse up and I'm taking my mouse down. And I can actually straighten up this line just a little bit more, just so it feels a little perfect. And then I get rid of some of that white on the top. Once I sort of use the crop tool, another tool that I really love is this tool right here, the graduated filter. You'll hear me call it the gradient tool a lot. That's just because I'm coming from a Photoshop world and I think about it as a gradient. But what I can do with this is this will allow me to make local adjustments. So I can take this and I target this maybe in the middle here and I can drag this up. And what I want you to notice is that I can make this adjustment here. So I can make this a little bit darker. I can make this a little more contrasty. Heck, I can even like make it more cold or warmer. But I want you to see down here that there are these three lines. So this is the tool working at 100%, so full intensity. Here's 50% and then 0. So the longer I drag this line, the longer and smoother the gradient. So let's just do this. I just want to show you what this looks like. Now obviously this is too intense, but you can see I can actually filter it up in a much more convincing manner the longer I run this. And actually I can even start this off of the image plane. So that's the graduated filter. I'm gonna make that sort of not so horrific looking. And I'm gonna maybe just go ahead and make this just a little bit darker, just to give it a little more tooth. I also have the ability to use the local adjustment brush, and you can just hit K and that will sort of get this tool going. And there's a couple things here. I get this sort of circle and it's got that same thing like the gradient tool. The solid circle is it at 100%, and then there's this feather, which I can use to increase that outer circle as it working at 0%. So if I want to, maybe I want to come in on this guy's face and I just want to kick up the exposure just a hair. And so I can do that in all sorts of parts of the image. So I could come in here, lighten that up, I can hit new, and I can make a new adjustment there. There's a lot of ways in which I can subtly go in, and if I don't like something, I can just click on the little radio button and hit delete. And that is my favorite sound in all of Lightroom. So I just wanted to show you some local adjustments, and I can close that back down. So the adjustment brush, the graduated filter, and over here the crop tool.